The Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee will come to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Before we get started, I just want to report that we're continuing to make significant progress on the budget. We're working to resolve our differences while also maintaining the Senate position as it relates to the importance of funding core services, especially in the areas of education and health and human services. Turning back to our agenda, today we're hearing one bill, Senate Bill 6001, related to the gas tax. Before I ask Senator Newman to speak to the bill, I want to make a few comments on this topic. In 2020, the General Assembly made significant efforts to provide long-term bipartisan transportation funding solutions, and this included a 2-year phased increase in gas taxes. This planned phased increase is now being described as surplus transportation revenue. The bill before us would reduce funding by approximately $437 million and will result in additional funding challenges for the Commonwealth's transportation programs between maintenance and construction. Similar transportation program funding challenges in the past led to the need for gas tax increases. I also want to emphasize that other approaches supported by the Senate, such as the tax rebate check or a refundable earned income tax credit, would likely be more effective options in providing relief to our citizens. And with that, I'd like now, Senator Newman, your bill.
With that, Madam Chair. Good morning. What a pleasure to be here. Madam Chair, I have some amendments to the bill, and I would ask that the amendments be adopted. They are technical in nature.
Is there a motion to adopt the technical amendment? It's been moved and seconded the technical amendments be adopted. All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Okay, they're adopted.
Madam Chair, good morning. I'd like to go through a number of items on the bill, but when I'm done, I'm hopeful that many of us will recognize that, one, I think the bill that is in front of you is well thought out. Number two, I think that we'll agree that whether you're looking over the horizon or not, that when you look at the trust fund, that it is paid for. Number three is I hope that you'll agree that it will help working Virginians. So when you get to the technical structure of the bill, I know all of you have already read and digested it. It really has two main components. One is the suspension, which has been widely discussed. That portion of the bill has a complete holiday from May 1st to July 31st. That portion is the reason why there's an emergency clause in the bill. The next portion of that section is there's a 50% phase out from August 1st to August 31st and 25% from September 1st to September 31st, and the full gas tax would return in October. The second part of the bill is a limitation on the inflation or CPI increase that we had put in a couple of years ago. Let me give you why that's in the bill. First, over the last 12 months, the CPI-U has increased by 8.5%. Let me say that again, 8.5%, the largest 12-month increase since 1981. In 2020, when the omnibus bill that the chairman spoke about was passed, the CPU was 1%. Capping the CPU in the code at 2% will effectively reduce inflation, but also allow for the doubling of what was occurring at the time the bill passed. Madam Chairman, the next portion is about the public need. Now, I know this is an item that is sometimes difficult for a committee like us to grasp. As I look around this committee, I imagine that everyone up here will probably be okay if the bill passed or didn't pass. That's not true of every working Virginian. What is currently we've seen, gas prices have increased across the country. The average in Virginia is almost $4 per gallon today, 3.96 per gallon. Diesel, $1 more at 4.89 a gallon. Remembering back just to January 2021, that price was $2.42. Pre-COVID, the average working family was using about 109 gallons of gasoline per, about 109 gallons of gasoline. Considering inflation, if this bill was to pass, the average family would save approximately $100. Are there other ways to do that? Certainly there are other ways to do it, but that's what this proposal does. Some have raised a question, which I think is a good one. What about the out-of-staters? What about those guys, especially you guys in Northern Virginia? Are we helping others? In part, yes. There's no other way around that. We are. The Department of Transportation says, however, that of the gas portion, about 80% was purchased by Virginians, and clearly it will have a positive impact for gas stations that are located in Virginians and those small businesses, no matter where the driver is from. Madam Chairman, the second part of this bill and the impact it'll have on working Virginians is, I think, is great or greater than the first part. And that is, unless we pass this bill or we do something in the budget, the fact is that there is coming an 8.5% increase in the cost of gasoline that is going to hit your consumers, my constituents in July. This is the first time we've indexed. This bill slows that index. Madam Chair, let me mention to you just a little bit about the fund, because I think everyone on here, whether you're Republican or Democrat, like this bill or don't like this bill, we've all been somewhat defenders of the trust fund. I know I have. But this bill is paid for, and let me give you the whys and hows. First, the gas tax suspension here is paid for by the unanticipated revenues in the Transportation Trust Fund, which are coming in surplus. And some of you may have heard that it's there, but not knowing exactly how much it is. Right now, from some federal funds and otherwise, there will be an additional in 2022 and 2023, about $1 billion. That's about the round number that's coming in. This proposal has about $400 million, a little over $400 million coming in. That's broken up in about $670 million for 2022 that's coming in, and about $457 that's coming in addition to 2023. Let me make this clear. The proposal before you will cost or give back $437 million from the Transportation Trust Fund over the next 2 years. But it will leave an unanticipated revenue increase of $692 million. Let me just mention the 6-year plan, because some of you have been big into understanding the formulas. There will be no impact, let me repeat that, no impact on the 6-year improvement program, because we're utilizing funds that are not anticipated currently to the SIP. The other is that currently the SIP will have about $6 billion more dollars between 2021 to 2027. Let me say that again, $6 billion more dollars in that time, going from about $19 billion to $25 billion. That is important because I think the chair has brought up that there are some unanticipated items coming, and there's some anticipated items like inflation that are on the way. Also, maintenance programs are not impacted either at VDOT or at the local level by this bill. In comparison to past SIPs, VDOT's construction program remains overfunded by over $600 million. If you're concerned about smart scale, and you should be, the smart scale program remains consistent. When it comes to inflation, the new revenues will support the inflationary costs that are currently anticipated, and that is anticipated in round 5 of smart scale. I just mentioned small businesses because I know occasionally there's been some statement, not in this body, but outside of this body, that maybe the money won't be passed on to consumers. I think the data says otherwise, and here's 2 reasons why. One, I trust small businesses. Small businesses at a corner, you can watch one gas price go down and the other has to follow. I believe that the free market system actually works in small gas stations as it does in other areas of our economy. But number two, we have a great example just to the north. Maryland, as most of you know, and those in Northern Virginia know well, they did pass their Maryland 30-day gas tax reprieve bill on March 18th. And gas prices dropped 21 cents on that day. Let me say that again. They passed their bill, and gas prices dropped by average of 21 cents on that day. Gas prices in Maryland became roughly 30 to 40 cents cheaper than in D.C. or Virginia during the duration of that holiday. I just mentioned the federal bills and other state bills because you've probably heard about them. Many states are passing similar versions. Republican states and Democrat states, Republican governors, Democrat governors. The Biden administration, as you know, has expressed support for a federal gas tax holiday. The United States Senate, some Republicans and Democrats, are considering a pause of the federal gas holidays of about 18.3 cents for gasoline and about 24.3 cents for diesel that would go all the way until January of 2023. A couple of states that have done it, I mentioned Maryland, they decreased by 38 cents, Connecticut, 32 cents, Georgia, 36 cents, Florida, 20 cents, and there are 20 other states considering what we're doing here today. In closing, Madam Chair, you may support the bill, you may not support the bill, but I do hope that you'll understand that I think this is a smart bill that has been laid out with a few things in mind. One, that we want to make sure it's paid for, and number two, we want to make sure that it returns money to working Virginians that are having a difficult time today paying their gas bill. Madam Chair, you've been very kind to allow for your comments and my comments, and I thank you for both.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions for Senator Newman? Senator Marsden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Newman, good morning.
Good morning.
From what I understand, if we capped the increases at 2%, the cost of asphalt is exploding. And I would assume that that is one of the major costs in road maintenance and construction in Virginia. We don't use a tremendous amount of concrete. And wouldn't that put us behind over time as we cap this thing? Because, you know, inflation on asphalt, I think, from what I've been told, is exceeding even that of general inflation. How do we account for that?
Well, Senator, it's a good question. A couple of things. One, as you know, asphalt in particular is tied to gasoline. There is a direct correlation between those two. I'm hoping that gasoline is going to come down after some of the current crisis eliminates, which would hopefully affect a disinflation. I don't believe, however, going forward, that an 8.5% is enough to impose on Virginians right now. So that's the reason why it's here. If that particular portion is a struggle to any particular member and they wanted to remove that portion, I guess we could do that. But that's the reason why it's there.
Thank you. Other questions?
Madam Chair?
Senator Edwards.
Senator, appreciate your presentation. With regard to small free market system, there's another part of the free market system, that's the Road and Transportation Builders Association, that's free market. And so basically the gas tax is simply a pass-through. We collect the tax, it gives to them, they build the roads. So I've been told that there's been a 21% increase in materials and all the rest, as opposed to 7.9% consumer good increase because of inflation. Given the fact that it's costing more to build the roads in the free market system, all we're doing is collecting the tax that would go to them to build the roads. How do you fix 81, for example? And it's going to take 10 years. And if we have a little extra money, shouldn't we put into doing it faster and quicker? Because you know 81. Yeah. It's a mess. Every year, every week just about, there's a problem of 81. 41% is unanticipated problems because of crashes or whatever. So how are we going to fix 81 if its costs are going up in the free market system of the people who actually do the work, if we're going to cut back on the money that they need to fix the roads.
Madam Chair, thank you for the question, John. A couple of things. One, there's good news. One, the good news is that Phase 4 has been paid for. The good news is that from the information I'm given, that we are anticipating that the surplus will pay for Phase 6. So for the short run, the phases in Smart Scale are going to be fundable even with this plan. That's the good news. The second news is this. I know it's a little harder and it's a little more complex, but imagine if you're the average working consumer out there, government is doing a little better right now. The federal government's saying we might do something to help on gas tax. The states, a number of them are saying they would. And imagine if we don't act, right? What if we could, teaming with the federal government, reduce the price of gasoline by 40 to 50 cents, which is anticipated you could do if you combined both of them, be about 40 cents. That's a big deal to work in Virginia. So I think just like we do in this committee all the time, it's all about budgeting. And I think budgeting in here is a determination. This committee, to its credit, has determined that helping working Virginians with some with some tax relief has been important. I think this is just another one of those.
Madam Chair, you have another question?
No, I'm going to move to the next person. Senator Sassel.
Oh, good.
Steve, I don't think that my eyes are lying to me, but the condition of the roads in Northern Virginia, and I can't speak for the rest of the state, are the worst they have seen in the 42 years that I've been in office, by far and away. On Braddock Road, here's a secondary road which carries 80,000 cars a day between the Beltway and the shopping center about a mile west of the Beltway. And it gets worse as you go out. It looks like they have driven tanks up that road. I have never seen roads torn up to the degree that they were. And when we left the session in March, on my way home, I hit a pothole at about the 84-mile mark on the interstate. $300 later, it was fixed. Tire, alignment, the whole 9 yards. And there's only one reason that the condition of the roads look the way they are today: money. They don't have the money. And quite frankly, my feeling is we shouldn't take one penny from that. The other thing to think about, Maryland's tax expired. And it's gone back up 37 cents a gallon. Based on what I've seen, it is extremely doubtful that the oil companies would allow that kind of gap. And I suspect the prices would climb back pretty quickly. So instead of putting it in the consumer's pocket, you're putting it in the company's pocket. This whole thing could not come at a worse time from the standpoint of highway maintenance. It could not come at a worse time.
Madam Chair, but that's a better question I thought I was going to get. So, okay.
When you agree.
Most of the time, but not this time. Madam Chair, to move this along, I move that the bill be reported.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, unless you need to get other comments.
Yeah, I
figure
wanted to
after
see
Sassol
if,
spoke, he was done. So.
well, I'd like to get public
Yeah,
comments.
absolutely. I withdraw my motion.
But is there any further question from a member of the committee? Okay, not seeing any. I'm going to give 15 minutes to each side. And we'll start with those in favor of the bill.
Well, I'm number one. Thank you for listening to me. Since returning from service with the Marines in Iraq, my family's been blessed. I retired, moved my family down here for a better quality of life. Both my sons graduated from Virginia, fine Virginia universities, JMU and UVA. And their education enabled them to be self-sufficient. At the same time, my military pension and Social Security are only adjusted annually, lagged compared to current inflation. My home's appreciated more than 20%, making my taxes 20% higher. With the current inflation rate of greater than 8%, as we've cited, due to the sudden rise in the price of gasoline and other commodities, my commodity expert is here with me, my wife, our budget is much tighter than before. And without being selfish, given our budget surplus and the surplus in this highway fund, so long as the other important investments in education and law enforcement are not impaired, any consideration such as a temporary reduction in the gas tax, which would have an immediate positive material impact on our life, especially during the summer highway when the prices go up. While there are those who insist that this or that project's important, given the inflation, we're all learning to prioritize our spending. I believe the government should be no different and return this part of the surplus to us, the citizens of the Commonwealth. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. I neglected to ask you your name.
My name's Colonel Courtney Whitney III.
Thank you. Okay, next. And I won't forget this time. Please identify yourself.
Hello, my name is P2 Sundhu. I've run up to 20 restaurants and led a team of up to 300 associates, and many of whom live paycheck to paycheck. And the inflationary pressures put on them with the increase of the prices of gas, the pain at the pump, it's very real. My team members reach out to me on a weekly basis, and I implore the committee to think about the average person living here in Virginia and how they're trying hard to make ends meet. At 26 cents a gallon, the average gas station sells about, say, 70 to 100,000 gallons a month. So let's take 100,000 as an even round number. One gas station, the elimination of the tax will put back $26,000 in circulation to spend in the local economy. And then go back and look at how many gas stations you have in each of your districts and how much money that will free up for the average person. I've heard all the arguments against it, that the oil companies will keep the prices up. In Virginia, it's the wholesalers that remit the taxes to the state of Virginia. They buy a load from the depot, they deliver it to their customer, Bob, the gas station owner on Broad Street. And so Bob, the gas station owner, is not the actual person collecting the taxes. He's paying those taxes up front before he even sells the fuel, right? And let's just hypothetically say that the tax is eliminated today. Bob got a load of fuel delivered yesterday. He's already paid the taxes on it to the wholesaler. The wholesaler's remitting that to the state government, okay? Let's say then that this load that he has will last maybe 7 to 10 days until he's ready to order again. Once he's ready to order again, the wholesaler will not charge him the tax, assuming this is passed, and then the prices will come down at the pump. So I implore you to please just think about the average person here in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning,
Good
Madam
morning.
Chairman. John
Please,
Lawson. John Lawson, Deputy Secretary of Transportation. I just want to thank you for hearing the bill today and just state that with the increase in the revenue forecast that we've seen in the Transportation Trust Fund or the Commonwealth Transportation Fund, this is a great opportunity to us to give back to the average citizen.
Thank you. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Susan Hanna. I'm one of those average citizens in Virginia. I'm a disabled veteran on a very fixed income. Not everybody works. As the Senator had said that, talking about working families, in my family, I don't work because I'm disabled. And the gas is just way too high. And it's affecting my ability to get care at the VA hospital because I live too far away. And I have to give up some of my treatment in order to not spend the money on gas. And it affects my family in that my daughter has 2 autistic sons and their care is in Charlottesville. And she too has had to cancel a lot of her appointments because she just can't afford the gas to get there. My son has a daughter who he has joint custody of, and he has to go to Manassas or Fredericksburg to get her every other weekend. And it's affecting the amount of time that he gets to spend with her. And I'd ask that consider at least putting a temporary hold on the gas tax, because it is affecting us everyday citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tawana Hampton, and I would first like to thank the patron of this bill, Mr. Newman, and our Governor Youngkin, who's also considering this bill. Eliminating the gas tax is a huge step in relieving the pain at the pump that all Virginians are experiencing. When we think of gas prices, our minds immediately go to the cost for filling up our vehicles. My husband has a 34-mile round trip to work, so he definitely feels the pinch at the pump. However, there are many ways that high gas prices impact us, even if we don't drive a vehicle. Farmers use lots of gas to fuel their trucks and their machinery. My family up in Tappahannock, we rent our property out to a farmer, and he just came by to pay his rental to us and was explaining how high it is now for him to just get supplies and then the gas for his equipment also. It's really impacting him and his business as a local farmer. So that's going to impact us as far as our food prices. Landscapers, one of my friends, her son just started his new landscaping business, trying to get a Toho, as we call it sometimes, trying to start a new little business. And now he's impacted heavily because of the machinery he uses gas, and then, of course, his truck to get to and from his jobs. What about public transportation? With the high gas prices, that's going to affect people that don't have a car, but they want to use a bus or Uber or whatever. Those prices are going to go up because of the gas price. So some people say, well, why don't we just use electric vehicles? Well, if you're on a limited income and you're already driving an older model car, chances are you're not going to be able to afford to up and buy an electric vehicle. And I'm sure there aren't any used ones, seeing as that's a new thing, so it's going to be very difficult to find one. So I do hope that the committee will consider passing this bill, because it is going to help a lot of Virginians, and it will also help in reducing some of the inflation that we're experiencing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Ken Lefevre. So this is what a committee room looks like, huh? In my 70 years on this earth, I've never felt compelled to put my hand up like this. This is a first, so bear with me for a moment. I remember the last time that inflation in general and the gas situation occurred. I see some gray heads in the room, so some of you probably lived through that. But as a young 20-something coming out of college and my first job, it curtailed a little bit of my pub money, but I worked in a steel mill. And I never saw steel workers, proud steel workers, tough guys, cower in the corner because they didn't know how to pay their bills. The gas, everything at that point, the inflation. Fast forward 45 years, having had a family, children, hopefully grandchildren soon, I have a different perspective in terms of the impact. And I'm here today, my wife doesn't know I'm here, because I'm here on her behalf. I'll tell her tonight. But she's a pediatric ICU nurse, about 3 blocks that way. Career. She's kind of a den mother to the nurses there, the 20-somethings, the 30-somethings, the assisting staff. And they've been coming to her to say, Cindy, what do I do? What do I do with I'm pregnant, I'm having my second child in this pandemic mode. And they don't know how to deal with the expenses. They've never had to do this before. And like some of the people that came before me, those stories are real. And I know I'm a businessman, I'm a retired businessman. You gotta balance a budget, you gotta do all the things you guys are talking about here. Tough times. You got some tough choices to make. And I don't know whether you're D's or R's in front of me. I don't have any clue about that. I just hope that for a temporary period of time, a couple pennies, $100 in somebody's pocket right now will not only relieve them financially, but from an emotional point of view, maybe it lets them relax a little bit. Give them a little air in the room.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman and committee members. My name is Loretta Green, and I'm from Alexandria, Fairfax County. I'm a wife, a mother, and a taxpayer. I'm a former associate administrator at the U.S. Small Business Administration. But I am here as a carpool mom, and I'm a voice for carpool moms. We are feeling the sting of inflation. It is double to fill up our tanks. Every item in the grocery store has increased. Virginia families need relief. Small businesses need relief. I'm here to support the gas tax elimination holiday. Every penny helps, and we have a surplus, and we need to use this surplus and help Virginia families. We are fortunate to have Governor Youngkin and Senator Newman, who are leading the charge on this effort to help Virginia families. Budgets are tight. Please give us some relief as we enter summer activities and to help small businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you're in the Zoom room and wish to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically now. Madam Chair, there are no speakers.
Okay, thank you. In that case, those in opposition.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm just going to say it's 15 minutes. There seem to be a lot of speakers, so keep it in mind so everybody gets a chance.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Jason Stanford, and I'm the president of the Northern Virginia Transportation Alliance. I'm here today as a member of Virginians for Better Transportation, a broad, unprecedented coalition of nearly 60 business, trade, community, environmental, and union organizations from all across Virginia, as well as local communities who support adequate, sustainable transportation funding. We're here to share our concerns about the proposed suspension of Virginia's gasoline tax and the 2% indexing cap. We have different members here today who can speak to each aspect of this issue, such as the experience of other states that have enacted gas tax suspension, the limited benefit to Virginia residents of such a policy, the current perils of inflation in the construction industry, the struggles of transit agencies across the state due to low ridership and revenue shortfalls, the importance of transportation investment to Virginia businesses, and the overall impact to Virginia's long-term transportation funding sustainability. When combined with the nearly $800 million in lost revenue from eliminating the grocery tax, the gas tax suspension, a $400+ million impact, and the 2% cap, a $500+ million impact, will result in a disastrous loss of more than $1.7 billion in Virginia transportation funding over the next 6 years, with an even greater long-term impact due to the permanent grocery tax repeal and CPI cap. This loss of revenue will have a real-world impact across all modes of transportation, including roadways, transit, rail, bike and pedestrian, ports, airports, and transportation technology infrastructure, and would weighed with the limited benefits of less than 50 cents a day for the average driver, and that assumes 100% of the tax savings are passed along to consumers, something even the governor has admitted we cannot guarantee. The long-term costs of this proposal clearly outweigh the benefits. We urge you to see the value of transportation investments, protect this critical funding, and focus on other tax proposals that will provide needed relief to Virginia residents without doing long-term harm to our transportation system. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Gordon Dixon with the Virginia Transportation Construction Alliance. Two items I want to bring up real quick. One is the major concern that 150-day gas tax holiday plus a 50% reduction of the CPI index is a major misconception that the change in the state gas tax, up or down, will automatically trigger a big change in the gas pump. It will not. As you all well know, the gas tax is not collected at the retail pump, but is actually collected at the bulk terminals. A 9-year-long study conducted by Dr. Allison Black of the Transportation Investment Advocacy Center found that on average, just 18% of the increase or decrease of the state gas tax is actually passed through to motorists in the retail price of the gas in the 2 weeks following the change. Here's a chart of over the 9-year-long study, and you'll see the states that have implemented the gas tax and those who have not implemented the gas tax. Those states that have actually implemented the gas tax have not seen a significant increase or decrease in their gas tax component. The 9-year-long study found 177 changes in other states, over 34 states, that have adjusted the gas tax. As you can see here, the lines aren't that different. And the reason why is because market forces actually control the pump price, not what happens at the gas tax. Secondly, of the 27 states, the senator had mentioned there are several states who have considered a gas tax cut this year as well, and there are 27 states who have considered it, yet only 5 states have actually gone forward with any type of gas tax cut. Of those 5 states, only 3 of those 5 have actually chosen to backfill those with some type of additional dollars, rainy fund dollars or general fund dollars, because they understand the long-term implications of such an impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Rich McDonough. I'm just retired director from Lane Construction Corporation in Northern Virginia. My team and I just won the 495 Next project, $441 million project. And I want to talk about the effect of inflation on that. We were awarded that job last May, almost a year ago. We got full notice to proceed March 1st. The material value in that $441 million job is approximately 30% of the contract, just over $120 million. The across-the-board inflation on our materials, permanent materials to the project, is averaging 25%, or $30 million. If you apply that 30% factor, $30 million factor to VDOT's budget, that takes a lot of work off the floor of the 6-year plan. We can't afford these cuts. Now, I heard we have a surplus of $1 billion in our program, but yet we haven't funded the 64 job between Richmond and Williamsburg. We haven't funded the beltway improvements between Springfield and Woodrow Wilson Bridge. We haven't funded the almost $30 billion that I-81 requires to fix it, according to VDOT's numbers. We can't afford a cut in this transportation budget. It is a core responsibility of government to support transportation, safe transportation to its citizens, and I please ask you to consider that as you vote on this bill.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Danny Plugger. Madam Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Danny Plugger, representing Virginia Transit Association and Virginians for High-Speed Rail. We obviously have tremendous concerns about the gas tax suspension and what it will do for our public transit and rail systems. Right now, there are incredible cost uncertainties in the transportation industry. Over 60% of Virginia's rail projects are below the 30% design threshold, making them very sensitive to drastic and unforeseen commodity and labor price increases. The cost of our transit buses here in Virginia has increased 25% over the last 6 months, and the wait times to have them delivered has more than doubled. Every dollar that we cut from our rail and transit program is one less dollar that we have to match federal grants or to deal with unexpected cost increases. I ask you to please oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Phil Abraham and my clients, the Old Dominion Highway Contractors and the Virginia Association for Commercial Real Estate and its 3 member chapters in Greater Richmond, Hampton Roads, and Northern Virginia all joined the coalition that Mr. Sanford mentioned at the start of this meeting, of the testimony. They're very concerned by the magnitude of the funding loss to Virginia's transportation system if this bill were approved. As you noted, Madam Chair, the proposed fuel tax suspension and 1-year cap on indexing will result in a loss of $437 million just in the first year. You've heard this is a minimal loss, that funding is exceeding projections, but please keep in mind that this loss would occur as we begin the very first year of what will only be 5 paid-for years of increased federal transportation revenues in Virginia. VDOT reported to the CPTB last March that Virginia will receive $391 million of paid-for funding in fiscal year 2023. This is $46 million less than will be lost in fiscal year 2023 by the proposed suspension of the gas tax and cap on indexing. It's 22% of the total additional funding Virginia has been promised over 5 years under the 2021 Federal Infrastructure Act. As you, Madam Chair, and members of this committee know, transportation revenue increases at both the federal and state level are hard-fought, infrequently occur, and more often than not require bipartisan support. In 1983, President Reagan was the first president in 24 years to raise the federal gas tax. In 1986, Governor Baliles pushed his own party for the historic increase that occurred that year. In 2013, Governor McDonald achieved the next major increase, and in 2020, as you noted, Madam Chair, we made additional important changes, including indexing. We waited 29 years for increased paid-for federal transportation revenues. If this bill is approved, in essence, that money will simply plug about 90% of the hole it leaves behind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Trip Pollard with the Southern Environmental Law Center. And we oppose this proposal as well because it would blow a major hole in our transportation funding just 2 years after you all adopted a transformative bipartisan transportation funding omnibus. Virginians need relief from rising cost of living, but this is the wrong approach. It is an inefficient mechanism that will offer minimal benefits while cutting revenues needed for safer, cleaner, and more equitable transportation. And this is why such a broad range of groups, some very strange bedfellows, are opposing this bill today. Experience has shown, as you've heard, that in any gas tax suspension, the benefits, only a limited portion, are likely to reach consumers. Yet losing hundreds of millions and ultimately billions of dollars of transportation funds means fewer road and bridge repairs, as well as cuts to transit and rail. Shortchanging our transportation system will harm all Virginians, and people without a car will be hit the hardest. There are better ways to address rising costs without harming our transportation system, and we urge you to reject this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Clayton Medford of the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, here to oppose the bill. Every year, our members get together and decide on our public policy priorities. And every year, the two that rise to the top are education and transportation. Primarily because those are the public policy areas that have the greatest impact on a business's ability to attract and retain a talented workforce. Education speaks for itself in that area, but on transportation, it's a huge quality of life issue. Especially in Northern Virginia. Everything from just regular maintenance to mass transit can have a substantial impact on an employee's happiness. And so we would urge you to vote against this bill. And as my colleagues have mentioned before, there may be a situation now where we are kind of flush with cash. We may have plans that are fully funded, but those plans do not go to meet all of our needs. As Senator Salzall mentioned, with the maintenance issues in Northern Virginia are always growing. So I'd urge you to vote against the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Chris Wadika with the Commonwealth Institute. We oppose the bill for many of the reasons already stated by the previous speakers about the budget concerns, and we believe that there are more direct ways of delivering economic relief to families in Virginia, including the refundable earned income tax credit and the one-time tax rebates that are under discussion. We also think that there are ways to expand the one-time rebates to make them refundable or to provide them on the basis of number of dependents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the Zoom?
If you're in the Zoom room and wish to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically now. Madam Chair, we do have one speaker, William Harwell, but it might take a second to queue up. Mr. Harwell, once you are in the Zoom, please speak. Mr. Harwell, you can unmute and begin your testimony.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, Chairwoman Howell and members of the committee. My name is William Harrell, and I am President and CEO of Hampton Roads Transit. We are here today to oppose the proposed 3-month elimination of Virginia's gas tax. As you know, this will undo the important progress and investments made in transit throughout our region and will have significant lasting impacts. Please remember that 60% of our riders are headed to work. The reduction in this funding will impact service levels at a time when we're trying to get more riders to work in this important economic area. The reduction in funding also will impact our ability to leverage the federal bipartisan infrastructure bill at a time where we need the investments to add jobs in the Commonwealth. In closing, we appreciate the intent of this proposed legislation, but the results will likely be symbolic given what has happened in other states. There has been reference to the state surplus, but there's been no effort to backfill these important transportation investments. So we would urge you to oppose this effort. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Thank you. All right, that completes the public comment section. Is there a motion on the bill? Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would like to make a motion. I'll just speak very briefly. I want to thank Senator Newman and the speakers. I thought did really a wonderful job of capsulizing this issue. I'm going to vote to pass this bill by, and let me just give three concise reasons. One, I think the real problem is inflation. And inflation affects all prices, not just gas, housing prices, vehicle prices. And we can't stop inflation by having a tax holiday. We can't. Number two, construction costs are going up rapidly. I listened to the gentleman who speak. I know for my own clients, labor costs, asphalt costs, as Senator Marsden mentioned, all of these input costs are rising faster than the cost of inflation. And we have to keep up if we're going to continue to maintain our roads. And then three, I just simply don't think that a gas tax holiday makes a difference. I really don't. And with apologies to Senator Newman, I know what Maryland did. I've talked to Maryland people. I didn't think what they did made sense. And so I just can't support it here. I just don't think it get passed through the consumer. And so I'm going to make a motion to PBI.
We have a motion and a second to pass the bill by indefinitely. Please record your vote.
Madam Chair, before you vote, just say thank you. I mean, this is a good, smart debate. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the way you handled this. Those in the audience, pro and con. I think that we're talking about less than 2%, but I appreciate the comments from the senator. And while I will oppose the motion, I really am grateful for the chair and the way you handled it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Newman. Okay, we have a motion before us to pass the bill by indefinitely. Please record your vote.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Ayes 12, noes 3. The bill is passed by indefinitely. And with that, the committee will rise.